Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a really cool AK style rifle. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Arsenal SAM5. So this is an AK-74 type variant rifle, but this one is chambered in 5.56. Yes, the same round that goes in an AR-15, and we're going to be talking about that chambering in this review and some of my thoughts on it and how it performs in this rifle. And as you can probably tell, this rifle is heavily modified and upgraded by its owner. Now, normally when I do range reports and reviews, I try to review the guns as they come from the factory, as stock as possible. Now, this one has a lot of upgrades, and I'm going to tell you what all of those upgrades are. But I am going to try to keep most of my comments to what the rifle is, regardless of what the upgrades are. But I will have to talk about a few of these upgrades, and I'll give you guys my opinions on those and whether I think they enhance or detract away from the rifle. But before I get into all of the upgrades and the things that I like and don't like about this gun, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this awesome rifle. His name is Charles. He's a local fan and subscriber, so thank you so much, Charles. As always, I want to thank my Patreons, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. You guys know we're always struggling with YouTube monetization and just keeping our channels up, and they go a long way in helping me do that. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor, who sponsors all these range reports because he provides the ammunition, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And you guys know I'm always talking and boasting about Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company manufacturing a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark over there is an artist. He's a craftsman. He's always coming up with new and innovative products. And I know if you like high-end guns, many of those guns you own take wood panel grips. And you might even have something special in mind for those guns. Maybe it's a barbecue gun. Maybe it's a family heirloom. And you want something that's special with a custom logo or custom engraving. Mark can make it for you. And I know if you're watching this video, you probably like modern sporting rifles and AKs, and you're thinking to yourself, well, what in the heck can a grip company do for me? Well, Mark also offers services for you. He can laser engrave P mags and AK-47 mags with anything that you can imagine and any type of file that you can send him. So I'm going to put a link in the comments section below. I'm going to ask you guys to go over there, check out his website. I also put a 10% discount code there for 10% off your first order. So please go over there, see what he has to offer, and when you contact Mark, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so once again, let's talk about what this rifle is. This is an Arsenal SAM5 chambered in 5.56. So this is a Bulgarian-made AK, more like an AK-74. Lots of upgrades on this thing. As it sits, it's a very beautiful and attractive rifle, but I told you I would tell you everything the owner Charles has done to this, because I think this is really important for this review, because some things I may talk about might be reflective of those upgrades. So we're going to go over a little list here. He has put in a KNS Piston, an ALG Ultimate Trigger, a Krebs custom trigger pin retaining plate, SLR Synergy BCF muzzle brake / flash hider, RS Regulate rail, RS Regulate AK-301 front biased lower optic mount, RS Regulate AKMP Leupold Deltapoint Pro mount, Eotech EFLX mini reflex sight 3 MOA, Krebs custom Mark IV safety for milled AK, Titan Tactical Designs extended charging handle, Magpul MOE K2 AK grip, JMac Customs buffer tube adapter for AK T3 milled receiver, generic AR buffer tube, Magpul CTR Stock, Slate Black Industries MLOK panels, and an AC Unity ACU 11 30 round mags. And that's the magazines we're going to be running in this, and we may or may not have problems with those. So that is all the upgrades that Charles has done to this rifle. Now that is a lot. So will it change the performance of this gun? Well, there's a couple of those upgrades that I think are necessary. Now, I was aware of this problem, and Charles told me and reminded me about this problem, that these AKs are a little bit overgassed. When they make the SAM5s, maybe it's because the Arsenal factory in Bulgaria is so used to making AK-47s chambered in 7.62 by 39, when they drill out the gas port, it's a little bit too big, and these things are notoriously overgassed. So it has a little bit more recoil, you feel that gas in your face, and it can damage the receiver over time. So a lot of people do put in those adjusting gas pistons in this, and that's what he did. Now, he told me he did tune this. Now, normally when it comes to guns that I review, I don't like to change any of the settings on it, but he said it was running good. However, I will tell you, we are going to need to talk about this because I do have a few issues with it, but it is recommended that you do get some type of adjustment on these, especially because they are a little bit overgassed. I'm also a little bit perplexed about AK owners sometime, and this in no way is a criticism of Charles or the decisions he has made with this rifle, but I'm noticing this in the firearms world. A lot of times we always kind of joke about the differences between ARs and AKs and which ones are better. But in the past few years, I have noticed there are a lot of AK owners, and even the hardcore AK owners, that AR their AKs, meaning that they put on AR-15 type accessories like M4 stocks and the like. And they even chamber them in AR rounds, but they still say the AK is superior. But I don't see AR guys AKing their rifles. But that's really another topic for another video and another day. But let's talk about the things that I like and don't like about this rifle before we get it to the range. And the first thing I really like about this rifle is who makes it. I really feel like Arsenal makes a quality AK. I know that some people will say their quality control throughout the years has been spotty. The old ones were amazing. They went through a couple years where they had some issues. But in general, I think that they're overall pretty good because they're manufactured in a plant that actually has military contracts. These are made on the same machines that make guns for militaries. And so you know that they're going to be putting quality into it, and then they're coming off the same line. And I've always had positive impressions about their AKs and never had any problems with how they ran, really at all. I've never had any issues, and I really feel like Arsenal makes a quality rifle. The other things that I really like are many things on that list of upgrades that I told you about, simply because I honestly admit I'm a little bit more of an AR guy than an AK guy. I find that the AR platform is a little bit more versatile than the AK platform, but I think we can all agree that the AK is a really awesome, well-designed rifle. So I'm not disparaging it in any way. So a lot of the upgrades I think I'm really going to like. Now let's talk about a couple things about this rifle that I don't like. And the first one is the caliber. Now I understand why people want a SAM5 and 5.56 over 5.45 because of ammo availability. However, for me, when it comes to my guns, I like to be pure. If it's a Russian gun, an AK, it's got to be in 7.62 or 5.45, and that is it. And when you change it to this, I understand the reasoning why, but it gets away from what the gun was really designed to be. Plus, the advantages of those Russian rounds is that they are a lot more tapered than 5.56. So we might get a little bit of feeding issues, reliability issues. We've already talked about these guns being a little bit overgassed. I feel like if you have a Russian AK or one that is made in one of the former COMBLOK countries, you really got to have one chambered in a Russian caliber. But that's just my personal opinion. I know these things run fine. People love them. That's just my personal opinion. Another upgrade that I don't like, because I think it detracts away from the original idea and concept of the AK, is the buffer tube and the stock assembly. Here we have an M4 Magpul stock and a buffer tube. And for me, one of the big advantages of an AK is to have all of the internals of this gun and the recoil mechanism inside the receiver. So you can have any type of stock you want, an underfolder, a side folder, a telescoping stock, a combination of all those, or even those really cool skeletonized triangle stocks. But to put on an AR buffer tube, because it's not functional on this, there's nothing that reciprocates back into it, I'm just not a big fan of that. I love all of the original options for the AK. This is my least favorite option, and I find to be the least attractive. Once again, I understand it's extremely functional, and it makes American shooters a little bit easier to ease into the AK platform. It's something that's familiar to them, but I just prefer the original designs. And as I said, you can hopefully tell I do appreciate and love the AK. I just kind of feel like they really got it right in Russia and all the people that have modified the AKs throughout the years in those COM-block countries. And they're just really special. And when we put on American features or AR features onto AKs, I think it just detracts away from it and takes away from what the gun really is. Another upgrade that I think is honestly a little bit dangerous, and I'm not saying it is going to cause much of an issue, but it's this trigger. He put in an ALG, which is really owned by Geisley, an ultimate trigger. Now this trigger is super duper light, almost too light. I totally forgot what he told me the pull weight on it was, but it's honestly about 2 pounds or less. So when you have a rifle like this, having just that little bit of pull and it goes off, I think it's a little bit dangerous. Maybe for competition shooting, but for me, when it comes to a sporting rifle or a gun that could be used in a combat situation, you want a little bit heavier pull weight on that. So I would go with one of the other ALG triggers. In fact, I think he said he was even going to trade it out because this trigger was a little bit too light for him. And the other upgrade that I'm not a big fan of is this extended charging handle, just because it moves around a little bit, and you can tighten it up. But one of the things about these is that the charging handles on the bolts were never really designed to have anything attached to them. I think it's a cool idea. I know why they're there, but for me, they kind of get in the way, take away from what the original design was, and often they don't really stay on there very tight for very long. You can get them tight, and maybe you could even weld one, but still, that's a lot of work. When it comes to the world of ARs, you're used to just bolting stuff on and it's staying put. It's not going to do that with this. I honestly just prefer the standard charging handle. All right, so now I've talked a lot about what this gun is, told you about it, and maybe you guys think I'm a little bit biased, but now let's get this thing to the range and see how it performs. As always, when it comes to these modern sporting rifles, I'm going to start at 10 yards. And now I'm not too worried about accuracy at this distance. The only reason I start at this distance is just to see how the rifle's going to perform. Am I going to have any issues? Issues with the magazine? Is the gun overgassed? What's the recoil like? How light or how heavy is the trigger? And then we're going to go out to further distances. So this is just to get my initial impression. So here we go, 1 magazine, 10 yards. Let's just see how this thing shoots and what I think about it. All right, so we got some issues to talk about. We obviously had some failures to feed, and I think there's 2 reasons for this. Number 1 could be the ammunition. As I mentioned, 5.56 is not as tapered as 5.45 or 7.62, and that's one of the big advantages to those cartridges, especially when it comes to feeding and extraction. 5.56 isn't the same way, and these receivers were never designed for this cartridge, so it does seem like it's getting stuck on those feed ramps. Another thing it could be is this gun is a little bit under gas because the owner, Charles, has decided to put in that adjustable piston and might have it set to be a little bit under gassed. However, the one thing that says that might not be the case is after the last round in the magazine, the bolt does hold open with these magazines, which means the bolt did reciprocate far enough for it to lock open. That tells me it should have enough energy to strip off that next round and load it into the chamber. But let's talk about a couple positive things about this gun. Number one, the trigger really is nice. As I said, I really wouldn't want it in my go-to rifle. However, on the range, it definitely feels great. And the other thing, this is the lightest recoiling AK I have ever shot. It feels absolutely fantastic. Normally, AKs can kind of beat you up a little bit after a long range session. I can already tell this thing recoils like a 22. It's darn awesome. I absolutely love that, and this gun is so pleasurable to shoot. This one's just going to be a lot of fun even with those malfunctions, but hopefully that's going to clear up. I'm going to try another magazine. That could be the issue. I'm going to try some different ammunition. That could be the issue, because Charles said he got it to run great for him before he handed it off to me for this review. All right, so now we know what to expect. Let's set out the target at twice the distance. We're going to see what this gun shoots like. I'm assuming the groupings are still going to be good because this is a rifle. And I know I'm only doing this at a shorter range, because this, as I said, is a home defense or tactical rifle. I don't really want to shoot this thing out to 100, 200 yards, even though there's plenty of videos out there and footage that you can go watch to do that. This is just a range fun gun for me. So let's see what happens to this group if I continue to have any other malfunctions, and just generally see if I discover anything else about this gun I like or don't like. All right, so we're still having a few issues, so maybe this piston does need to be adjusted a little bit, but so far the gun still is a lot of fun to shoot. So there's a huge positive to this gun that I'm absolutely loving. But now that I've shot 2 magazines through this, I'm discovering something else about this gun I don't like. And I've only shot about 40 rounds through it, and that is this handguard is getting really, really hot. Now, one of the advantages to ARs is you can have a completely free-floated handguard, and that does help keep them cool. But up here, this metal handguard is touching this gas block, and of course it's back here touching the trunnion, and that's where the 2 places that the gun are going to get really hot is. And now my hand here in the center of this handguard is starting to feel it. I'm getting the heat from the front and the heat from the back. It's so far not uncomfortable, but it is starting to be a little bit more noticeable. All right, so now let's bench rest this rifle. I know I'm only at 25 yards, but I want to try to take as much of the human element out of this, and of course at this range, I'm expecting this thing to be exceptionally accurate. And hopefully this gun will continue to perform a little bit better, because maybe it's kind of breaking in, it's getting a little bit warmer, so hopefully I won't have any issues going forward. All right, so here we go. Let's bench rest this rifle and see how I do. And this is a really good sign. The gun ran perfectly that time. So I didn't do any adjustments. So who knows what the issue is. As I said, it probably is a little bit undergassed, but right now it's running great. And I was using the same ammunition I was using in the first shooting footage. So no problems. And obviously the accuracy was never in doubt. So now that it's running a lot better, I'm liking this rifle way more. All right, I want to do one more thing. And of course, with a gun like this, with such a great trigger, let's just shoot this thing fast. I am a little bit worried I'm going to have a few stoppages in this, but if you have a gun like this, it shoots so well, you just want to shoot it fast. And I know a lot of people like to see mag dumps with AKs. So let's just see how fast I can shoot this thing and see if I can get a whole magazine through this ran as fast as I possibly can. And unfortunately, I had a few issues, but I could tell if this thing was running well, I could shoot it fast. The one thing about the AK that I've always appreciated, even as an AR guy, is the fact that these are simple machines. Kalashnikov followed the rule of KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And that's why the guns obtain their legendary status for reliability. But when you start to mess with that and start to add more components and change the machinery to make it more complex, inevitably you're going to have more issues. And that is the one thing the AK does beat the AR on. It is a more simple machine. It's a simpler device. And that's why, once again, it's known for running so well and so reliably. So what is the issue with this? It could be the piston. However, as I said, the bolt is locking back. So that bolt is reciprocating far enough. Is it the magazines? Is it the ammunition? I don't really know. There's a couple things it could be. I let the owner of this rifle know, and he's going to try it out himself. But I don't want to mess with anything because he has spent a lot of time making this rifle perfect for him. And I really appreciate him letting me get a chance to review it. But I'm just reporting what happened for me at the range. But it's obvious this is a well-built rifle, and with some fine tuning would be great. But you're going to have these issues. And in general, when it comes to an AK, I would rather it be overgassed than undergassed because it's going to run more reliably. And if it is overgassed, you can always put in some type of buffer in the back of the receiver. I know a lot of AK guys don't like that, but if your receiver is getting beat up because of that, I think that's a simpler solution than running an adjustable piston because you could have these issues. Now, to go back to talk about the heat, now that I've done a mag dump and done some bench shooting, this handguard is getting really hot. In fact, it's so hot that I really can't touch it. I have a laser thermometer I always bring to the range, and I want to show you what readings I was getting off of this handguard. In fact, I was aiming for right about here where usually my thumb would go, and you guys can see how hot it is getting. And as you can see, if the temperatures start getting in the upper 130s to 140s, yeah, it might not burn you, but it's definitely not comfortable to hold. You might want to bring some gloves when you shoot this thing. But what's the whole point in having a really cool handguard if you've got to protect your hands like that for just an easy range visit? Remember, I review these guns from the perspective of an average gun guy. Would I want this gun? Would I want to take it to the range and just have some fun with it? I totally get it if you're going into battle and you're wearing gloves. that heat is not going to be a big issue. But if you're just a casual gun guy, that heat might be an issue. Now, this might just be intrinsic to the design of this handguard because it is metal. I've never really had this issue on typical wood handguards or the polymer handguards you do get from Arsenal, but this is just a data point for you to know. And I'm not really 100% sure if the chambering of an AK changes that temperature. Does a 5.56 AK get hotter than a 7.62? That would be really interesting to investigate, but this one is definitely getting hot. So what are my final thoughts on the Arsenal SAM5 with all these awesome upgrades? Well, it is obvious that if this gun could be tweaked to run perfectly, it would honestly be the best AK I've ever shot. This thing shoots like a Ruger 1022. I cannot get over how light recoiling this AK is. And I really understand why people like the AK-74 more than the AK-47. This smaller intermediate cartridge is just the way to go. They're just so much more soft shooting, and it really is a lot of fun. Now, could this also be a magazine issue because we were having rounds not stripping from the magazine? That is a possibility, but anytime you take a gun that was originally designed for another caliber and chamber in a different caliber, you could have issues like this. This trigger from ALG is really nice, but once again, I would want something just a little bit heavier, maybe something with a little bit more take up, because I don't want to have a negligent discharge, especially with a gun that I might want to use for home defense. And I would have gone with a more traditional stock, but that's just me, because when it comes to AKs, I kind of believe that Niet rifle is fine. They're really cool just the way they were originally designed. But I understand why people want to upgrade them. And because of the design not originally intended to be modular, they have to come up with very creative ways of putting things on them, like the optics rails and so forth. So it's an older design that we've modernized, kind of like a B-52 bomber. It's still classic, it's still awesome, and I still did enjoy shooting it even though I had these issues. For me personally, I'd probably put the original piston in the gun, and then I would probably just deal with the overgassing by putting in a buffer in the back. But I'm glad I got to shoot this because this is the first time I've ever shot a gun with one of these adjustable pistons. So on my star rating, how would I rank the Arsenal SAM5? Well, I think I'm going to give this one 2 ratings, to be fair, because the gun is so upgraded. I can tell at this gun's core, it's an awesome rifle, and probably the way it came from the factory, looking much more like a traditional AK, and without all these adjustments, it probably would run great. And being such a soft recoiling gun, I really want to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. However, when it comes to some of these upgrades, which might be giving me some issues, I don't like that trigger, a little bit too light. I would have gone with a little bit different stock, and I hope Charles isn't mad at me for saying that. The handguard gets a little bit hot, and of course we have those reliability issues, which might be the piston. I'm going to give this thing 3.5 stars out of 5. So 3.5 stars as an upgraded rifle, 4.5 probably from the way it came from the factory. So I think that's a fair rating. I know people say I'm biased against AKs. I'm really not. I absolutely love them, but I'm just more of a traditionalist. So let me give you guys one more close-up of this really awesome rifle. It looks fantastic. I know with some tweaking, it would run perfect. I know Charles absolutely loves the thing. He's done a great job on this. Beautiful rifle, and I am honored and humbled that he let me shoot it for review. But I did tell him I would be honest. So what do you guys think? Do you think my criticisms of this rifle are fair? Would you want it more in the way it came from the factory? Or do you like all these upgrades? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.